Hi there, knife people, hello lady and gentlemen. Tonight I'm circling back to my video about improvements that I made to Work Sharp Professional Precision Adjust sharpening tool.
But if you haven't seen it, the link will be in the white box in this upper right corner right here.
I get a ton of positive feedback from people who applied my fixes and are using the device with great results. However, there are some questions that remain, and there are a couple recurring themes. First and foremost is people are concerned that when you clamp a knife, let me use a large blade here. So if you clamp the knife, and the larger the knife is, the longer the blade is, the more pronounced this issue becomes. So when you clamp the knife, first of all, they're concerned as they putting an edge on it, the knife will do this in the clamp. So the clamp is not clamping hard enough to prevent this wobble in, we'll call it XY plane. This will get a little technical. So other people are concerned that the knife can actually wobble in XZ plane. So if this is the X and this is the Z, the knife will wobble in this direction. And then finally, some people are concerned that the knife will be wobbling in YZ direction. This is now YZ, and the knife is wobbling in this plane. Then we're also going to look at another Achilles heel, or what people think is an Achilles heel of Work Sharp Precision Pro is, let's pretend this is the grinding media, and as you're sharpening it, it sweeps an arc. If you're starting in looking from the top down, you're starting here and you're sweeping that arc over this way, the actual angle changes. So if it's 17 degrees here, it can end up being as low as 15.5 at the tip, depending on the blade length. So in this video, I will talk about the three-dimensional wobble of this knife and how to address it. And then I will talk a little bit later about that sweeping arc angle change as well. I'll try to make it as brief as possible while remaining somewhat scientific. All right, here we have a super easy setup. This is one of the abrasive media plates that came with a set, and I'm going to call it blade henceforward because it's imitating the blade. It's about 1/8 of an inch thick, so it's a good approximation of the actual blade. As you can see, I found the center of the plate. It's 6 inches, 3 inches here, and what I marked off here is 1 inch from center, 2 inches from center, 1 inch from center, 2 inches from center. And my plan is to watch this witness mark here that is freshly applied. And as the plate turns under the force that I'm applying, I will be able to see white metal showing behind this witness mark, and the camera will register at how many pounds it took. I'll do the math after I film. I will accelerate this by a factor of 2 so you don't fall asleep. Trial 1. And right there, I see a hairline of white metal showing.
5 pounds and 3/4.
And as I release the pressure, let's see if it will return. So it didn't return all the way, which means not did I only overcome the elasticity of the rubber lining on the clamp, but the plate itself moved out. So now I reset it. And the strength, I tighten it with my fingers as hard as I can. And so I'll do it on this side.
Trial 2.
And I just saw the hairline open up.
4 1/4 pound.
So it's not going to be 2-to-1 ratio because of elasticity of the liner there. So it's not a perfect mechanism here. So, but it's reflective of how much force would it take for an average person after hand tightening this. And now we're switching to this side.
Trial 3.
Okay, and right there I see the hairline opening.
5 pounds even. Trial 4.
And right there I'm seeing the metal.
3.5 pounds.
Somebody asked me if I ever tried tightening it using some kind of tool. So first and foremost, before we use any tool, a lot of us will tend to tighten it like this when the tool is in this orientation. But what I notice, if you pop it up like this at 45, you can actually exert a lot more force using both fingers. And I think some of the problems that people are having have more to do with the fact that they're not tightening it enough by hand rather than some kind of deficiency with the device. So now that I added by hand about another 20 degrees to this nut, let's measure it all again. Trial 5. And I'm seeing just the beginning of the hairline there.
7 3/4 pound.
Trial 6. And now 2 inches. And I'm there.
6 1/4 pounds. Trial 7.
See, it settles, but the witness mark didn't move, so I keep going. There you go, right there.
7 3/4 pounds.
Trial 8. And right there.
5 1/4 pound.
And now I'm going to grab my, basic pliers and gently clamp down and turn it a little more. So now I am maybe 15-20 degrees past what my hands could do. And let's measure it again.
Trial 9.
So now I see a hairline showing up.
9 1/2 pounds.
Set.
Trial 10.
And right there.
5 1/2 pounds.
Reset. 1 inch.
Trial 11. 7 1/4 pound. Trial 12.
And here it is.
5 3/4 pounds. So here's the summary. I averaged left and right pulls at 1 and 2 inches distance. And now I'm calculating the delta between tightening it in a flat position versus tightening it at the 45-degree station. And I am getting pretty good increase. 44% at the 1 inch mark and 47% at the 2 inch mark. But I further learned that further tightening with the pliers not only yields measly 8% increase, but it also can overcrank on one side and leave the other side loose, amounting to a 3% decrease. And using pliers would definitely cause the elastomer in the mechanism to wear out a lot faster. In the next few minutes, I will measure the three-dimensional wobble of the blade and talk about solution. For now, let's recap.
I got much more significant improvement between doing it like this on one side versus properly doing it in a 45-degree orientation using thumb and a finger or both hands. I'm going to take that out, and I have another measuring stick here, literally. The reason I selected a brass rod is to answer the other question that people, or there are actually two concerns that WorkSharp or Pro Precision Adjust users are talking about. First of all, they are concerned that the angle here, just through a simple geometry, is different than the angle set here. So we're going to test this theory. Rod is the most accurate. I tried different plates that didn't seem accurate enough. First, we're going to zero it, turn it on, and place it right here's my first 1 inch mark. And it's at 16.5 degrees. Let's make it actually an even 17. Uh, 17 degrees here. And now I'm going to put it at the extreme distance and see if the angle changed. This is important. Let's just double check. There you go. We're still at the 0. Put it back on. 16 degrees. 17 degrees. 17 degrees. Going almost to the end. 16 and a quarter. I checked the rod for straightness by rolling it on a flat surface, and it seemed okay, but clearly there's a little bit of a difference. And I think this difference is in the device itself. By now we learned that the device over tightens on the left. I'm wondering if the viewers have similar experience. Let me know in the comments. So we can definitively say that there is a significant variation in the angle from the center out. No such thing as a fixed angle in the physical world. So what if you had a much longer blade or didn't clamp it in the middle? Let's take a look at what it would look like and how we can deal with it. We're at 17 degrees, close to the clamp. Now we're gonna move it about an inch. 16 degrees. So an inch movement changed the angle by 1 degree, 1 full degree. Another inch. And you can see this is settling a little bit. So I don't know. It's not only the geometry of a changing angle, but also the weight of this device also presses the blade down when you're sharpening. Well, now we learned that we can get 3 full degree difference over the 4-inch length of the blade. Question is, how much of a problem does it present? What you will get is a continuous plane that is at a varying degree to the primary bevel, but it will be continuous and appear flat to an eye. So it will be aesthetically appealing and look professional as long as you don't muscle anything in here. Another interesting knowledge point is how much force or weight does the media carrier exert on the blade itself. And it varies depending where in the stroke you are. And this variation is not insignificant. It's about 5 ounces. Here's the technique I use to counter all these little naggy issues. As I put the edge on, especially if it's not just a light touch-up, I support my blade with my support hand. I use my strong hand to stroke the plate carrier, but I'm always holding a finger without any pressure, just holding the finger on the underside of the blade, and especially when I get into the tip area, because that's where you maximize the flex. I'm able to achieve absolutely flat, although varying angles. So the angle here is changing the relationship between the primary bevel here and the secondary bevel changes as I go this way, but it's one continuous mirror plane if I'm shooting for the mirror finish. Let's give this some thought. So you would get a more obtuse or tougher geometry in the middle, right where all the tougher tasks are performed, like batoning, and slicey geometry with better edge retention in the front and the back where you do all your precision carving. I will illustrate my points by sharpening this Trucker 2 knife. This is as complex of a geometry to sharpen as you can possibly imagine, because it has basically 3 areas on the blade that require different sharpening techniques. Plus, it's a very wide and very thick blade. You have to tighten it using techniques I demonstrated earlier. Here we go. Step 1 in any sharpening is to blacken the edge using the permanent marker, especially if you're trying to match the original factory edge, or as you see me do here, change convex grind to a flat grind. I practiced convex grind on this knife, but decided since that I don't really need that type of edge. So I choose to put 22-degree angle. This is more of an axe than a knife, so 1095, very simple
ingot non-stainless steel. Decent steel for a, combo knife like that. And as you can see, I am supporting the knife with my free hand. Either supporting it at the handle or underneath the blade, because I am trying to go as flat as possible for this demo sharpening. And so it's important to me that I reduce the flex as much as possible. As you can see, the tool is free floating. I did not clamp it down. That is because sometimes on a large blade with a pronounced curve like this, you want to be able to freely rotate the base of your tool in order to get the best angle. And as I mentioned before, all that matters is the angle between the mast of the tool and the blade. How it relates to the tabletop is absolutely unimportant. So I'm not showing the entire sharpening. Here I'm just showing the technique that I learned from Jared Neves of Neves Knives channel to weaken the burr. I'm going in the opposite direction from my normal grind to weaken the burr. With the burr gone, I strop the knife lightly. Look at the flatness of the edge on the front portion of the knife, as opposed to convex grind on the rear part of the blade. I did a good job on that belt sander. Just take a look. That's a pretty thick blade to be doing this. What I noticed, the transition between the two edges catches paper. Let's see what we can do about that. I'm not sure I've seen a video anybody using this technique, so consider it a bonus for sticking around that long into my video. So I'm going to sacrifice one of my belts, sand belts. It's a 600 grit. And the reason I'm using it rather than a wider piece of sandpaper is because it's very stiff, and so it conforms more to the blade than to the tool, if you know what I mean. When making this knife, Tops opted for 56 to 58 Rockwell hardness for this 1095 blade, which is kind of on the soft side, and makes sharpening very easy though. Why did I choose this blade to play with today? The reason is one of my subscribers asked me in the video about this Tops knife, how do I sharpen it? So this goes to him for asking the question. I try to answer most, if not all, comments, but my personal preference, here's the confession, I really like questions. I like questions more than compliments. So please ask me questions. I don't say don't thank me. If you just want to thank me, that's fine. But I prefer questions because, I'm a geezer. That's what I want to do. Answer questions from you young whippersnappers. After just a few minutes of this, I get a burr. Once I feel the burr forming, time to just hone the blade using the ceramic rod that's right on the tool. Let's flip it around and hit the burr. Because I removed the sand belt and it has some thickness, now the angle changed ever so slightly. So this honing here puts a tiny tertiary or micro bevel onto that section of the blade. I don't mind it because, for the several reasons. This is not somewhere where I cut all the time. I just can't stand having a dull section on my blade. That's why I'm resharpening this portion. And secondly, because it's already convex, having a micro bevel on a convex edge is a normal practice. I wish I thought of testing it on a piece of rope. And here's the result of my earlier labors.